Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So today I have a very exciting video for you where we're going to talk about bag space and inventory management. We're going to go through what happens if you have no bag versus having a level 1, level 2, level 3, and of course level 3 and level 4 have the same exact bag space outside of the difference in the res and getting health back. So don't forget real quick to leave a like, comment, and subscribe, and don't forget to turn notifications on so you don't miss a single video that's uploaded to this channel, because we do upload quite a bit on the channel and I don't want you guys to miss a video. So real quick, and the reason, obviously I'm a Wattson main. I really love playing Wattson, but I'm using her obviously because she can hold 2 accelerants, just to kind of give an example for her inventory management. So ideally, whenever you have your bag space, what you want to have is more of a single shot weapon, whether it's a sniper, a wingman, anything along those lines in terms of getting you more of a single shot, because you essentially need less ammo for it. Essentially like a shotgun. It was a good replacement. Even if you have like the R301 and the Mastiff, just as an example, you really don't need more than 16 shots. I'm 100% guilty of this. Sometimes I rock 32 bullets. I know that the Mastiff as well can be a little bit annoying to run, and you burn through ammo relatively quickly because you're always hitting for 13s, but when you're landing your shot, ideally you'd be landing a more consistent at a distance 52 damage. So again, I'll try to keep this video as brief and short and to the point, but if it's a little longer, I do apologize. I am doing this off the cuff, and the reason for that, I wanted to feel more like a conversation, more of a one-on-one piece. So when we discuss the amount of ammo that you need for that, again, in this situation we only have 16, because the reality is you'll be able to burn through at least one whole team with that and pick up a remaining shotgun that is on the person that you're eliminating. And you want to probably have, let's say, about 180 in terms of ammo, and then let's grab some cells and kind of stockpile those here. And while we're gathering that, you definitely want to have grenades in your inventory, and you want to have at least 4 syringes. And as we keep building on this, we're going to keep building the inventory. You will always want to prioritize batteries over cells, just as a commonplace. So if you have the opportunity to get rid of some cells or trade them off with your teammates, then you can definitely do so. I like to run at least a minimum 8 to 12. 12 is getting a bit greedy, but I tend to play a support character, so I'm not usually the entry fragger. I'm the one trying not to avoid getting hit. I'm usually the one collecting the bag space, essentially, on the back end. Especially if you're Gibby, you're always going to get more or less the gold bag, or even being a lifeline, so you're going to be more of the support character. So in this situation, if I had this option, I mean, it would be great if you had 4 batteries and maybe 8 cells, grab yourself a grenade to kind of offset it. The more nades, the better. So even if you were to get rid of some cells and grab an extra nade, nades are just so important to maintain. And if you, of course, if you're a Wattson, you ideally would not want to get rid of the nade, but of course if you're support and you can pick up 2 accelerants and save the backspace and maybe give a nade to, let's say, your teammate, then you're going to be in a way better situation. So this gives you quite a bit of ammo, obviously, to utilize. More than enough to fry an enemy, as you can tell. Just got to make sure, of course, you land your shots, and of course 16 master shots is more than enough. Now you can do the same thing with the wingman, just as alternatives. So if you're running 2 single tap weapons, the reality is if you have no bag and you can kind of replace this, you really don't need more than 120. 120 is still even excessive, but even having 60, by the time you run into a gunfight, you don't need it as much. Now if you're playing competitive and you're playing, let's say, scrims or tournaments, then yeah, you're going to burn through this ammo really quick, especially if you're taking pop shots from a distance, but that is a whole different scenario that obviously I'm going to do my best to incorporate in this video, but again, I'm going to try to run through this pretty quickly just to be time efficient. And of course, again, all this other stuff doesn't take any backspace. You don't have to worry about that. You got yourself, you know, a hollow, anything you want, doesn't take up backspace. I don't recommend running around with multiple attachments because backspace is important. You should be picking up nades. Nades are so important. I make that mistake consistently. So if you have the situation where you have more options for backspace, you can pick up essentially more heals, more cells, and more nades. So in this situation, I got to pick up an extra bat or more cells, but just prioritize those grenades if possible. And of course, the reason why I haven't picked up a med kit in this scenario is I'm kind of banking on the fact that I'm not going to be realistically taking that much damage that early on. Med kits are more important, I would say, as you get a level 1, 2, 3, they can become more of a luxury item. I like to make the assumption that I am not going to get that low in a gunfight. If I'm getting that low in a gunfight as a support character, something is wrong. Now, because I shouldn't be entry fragging, I shouldn't be taking that massive amount of a damage. Now, if you're entry fragger, then you might want to replace maybe one of those nades for at least a med kit, but kind of make that decision. Some of this can be open for interpretation. Just make your best educated guess, but as you can tell from the inventory slot, you don't need to carry on that much ammo. I'd make the mistake all the time. You don't need 16 or 17, 20 cells and so forth. So level 1 bag, you can start to increase this. You can start to pick up maybe an extra nade, get more comfortable with bag space. You know, you still don't need above 16 shotgun because you're perfectly fine in that regard. Now let's say I went back to the R301 in this exercise, just because, you know, having not all single target weapons is not ideal, but can definitely be run. There's no shame in it. Doesn't hurt you. And let's say you just need a little bit more ammo to be comfortable. This is what an ideal backspace would look like. You would want it all packed up and looking nice and pretty. If you can't find the bats, then just replace them with cells. But just try not to go above the 12 mark. You know, that's when you start becoming more of a pack rat. And by the time you get to the situation, because cells are really slow in terms of healing up. So let's say you have a purple armor, and then of course you can top off 2 whole purple armors. But if you're getting cracked that much in an encounter, you're probably not going to be surviving very long, or the fight has lasted too long and you're about to get third partied. So try not to carry too much that is not unnecessary. And if a fight is lasting that long, that means that they're wasting their resources as well, meaning that they're going to have way less for you to pick up, and that's not good either. So you want the fights to end pretty quickly. You want to be confident in them, and if you're getting cracked that many times, you're just going to have to rotate, find a different angle, or hopefully finish them off to take the heals from them. That's the ideal situation. So that's a level 1 bag. So let's upgrade this. Let's go to level 2. So now as we get level 2, you can pack in a little bit more ammo. Now if you're just getting greedy, then yes, you can grab 32 shotgun bullets. Do you need it? Probably not, but in this exercise, sure, we'll grab it. Just let's pretend that we're just new and that we're kind of Pepega at the game and we are missing a lot of our massive shots. And listen, I'm guilty of this too. We all are. We all want ammo to feel comfortable, right? You can grab a little bit more R301 at this point. This bag space looks pretty confident. You can either trade it out for light ammo or you can trade it out for just cells and then continue just packing the rest of the inventory here, right? I always say look at the bag space as just padding at this point and just making you comfortable in the encounter. But if you look at this situation, this isn't bad. I mean, we can drop this and grab more nades. We have the accelerants because we're a Watson, but if you're not a Watson, just grab an extra nade. More grenades for variety. You don't need to grab more than 2 medkits. You don't need to grab more than 4 syringes. If you have 8 syringes, drop them immediately. You're making the assumptions that you're going to be in, you know, flesh heals, which isn't good. I mean, realistically, if you're caught in the zone that long, then sure, if you're outside of ring, you need to grab more syringes, but that's really playing outside the zone, and that's not ideal, because then you're giving up grenades, you're giving up your inventory that you're going to fight with, you're giving up the extra batteries, things of that nature. But running 8 cells is pretty good. I mean, running 4 bats, this is excessive kind of heals. You can replace, if you can't find the batteries, you know, maybe a Phoenix kit as a replacement, but ideally I would still recommend grabbing more batteries over a Phoenix if I had the option, just because when you're in the heat of the moment, getting that bat off is way more effective than trying to get a Phoenix off mid-fight. Your battery is going to be your best way to get right back into an encounter. So now let's upgrade this even a step further. So at this point, now you can really pack in the grenades. You know, you can really just stack it all with the grenades, because realistically you don't need much more than this. It could be debatable. Let's just, you know, get comfy and just stack it with light. I have burned through this amount of ammo before. This is definitely occurred for a lot of you guys, but this is more for competitive, I would say, and ranked, when you're in the last zone and everyone's just doing pick damage and everyone's playing super safe and nobody wants to push. That's the scenario wherever you're looking at picking up more ammo. But a reality is you can drop some of the shotgun ammo, maybe grab an extra nade, grab more bats, grab more inventory space for what your teammates need. Kind of fill your role, fill what the team needs, and whether you're going to entry frag or not. So as we wrap up today's video, I just want you to be mindful of that and be smart in terms of your bag space and making the decision. Are you just going to go in and get up and personal? Then give your maybe 1 or 2 bats to your entry fragger, whether it's a Wraith or maybe it's a Gibraltar. Anything along those lines that's going to push first. If you're a Watson, Lifeline, Crypto, anything else that's not going to be first in the engagement, then trade off those batteries and cells, vice versa. Because the entry fragger is probably going to have less cells. They'll probably be around more or less the 8 mark. I mean, 8 is kind of a really nice number to be around. 12 it goes above the number. And as you can tell from the inventory space, this is really where you start to trade things out. So if you don't need as much light ammo and you feel confident with your shot, then 240 is more than enough. 300 is a bit excessive. 360 is way too much. But make your own judgment call and realize as you're managing your inventory and bag space what you're going to be sacrificing and what you're going to be trading off. So if you decide to give up more ammo, then make sure when you get into an encounter that if you're fighting somebody, you notice they're using a G7, they're going to have light ammo, right? So once you mop up that team, you're just going to be able to replenish it. Or if you have too many nades and you don't use them and your whole inventory is full of nades, then be sure to utilize your inventory, utilize your nades, because whenever you fight them, let's say you burn through all of this, everyone burns through their nades, but then you grab all the heals and you start to divide it up between your teammates, well then that's what you need to do. So if there's no nades in the area, just start to stack it with ammo and other resources that you could utilize. But of course in this scenario, notice how again, accelerants are there. Again, this is a quick guide and tutorial in terms of bag management, some quick tips, guidance overall, something to manage. A lot of this stuff can be traded out depending on the role that you're playing, and if you're playing pubs, then naturally you don't need a certain number of X, Y, and Z, so just kind of trade those out. And especially if you're playing scrims and tournaments, then of course you're definitely going to need a lot more ammo and a lot more of those healing resources, but just be careful not to trade it out for too much of nades, or else you're going to lose some of your stopping power as well. Just calm with your group, make informed decisions, don't stack too much of any one item, and communicate with what you have. An example, as right before I depart, is, you know, normally whenever I'm calming, we'll say, in this situation, 513, meaning 5 bats and 13 cells. Notice how we don't calm 3-5, because flush heals, while they're important, you never really should be utilizing. In this scenario, I had an extra syringe, good example. You don't need to have 5 syringes. You don't even need necessarily, you don't need that many med kits. You shouldn't be in flesh heals that long, and if you are, you're going to get pushed and you're going to get third party and you're going to get wiped. So don't make that mistake. Hopefully these tips help. Don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. Turn on notifications so you don't miss a single upload on the channel. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.